thank you all for being here for our conversation with Orioles Executive Vice President and General Manager Mike Elias. For our Birdland members, it's an honor to be with you guys today, and hopefully this is the one Zoom call that's truly exciting in your lives today. We have some great questions from our audience coming up that we'll get to shortly, but I want to start by wishing everyone a happy and healthy and safe holiday season, and we wish that for you, Mike, and your family. And the Orioles just wrapped up the winter meetings, a lot different this year, but how do you think it went for the team?
Definitely a strange winter meetings, and really just wasn't anywhere near the level of engagement with the rest of the industry that we normally enjoy. We did have a lot of internal discussions and meetings, especially leading into the Rule 5 draft, but had some phone conversations with other executives and agents, but usually we're able to catch up. This is oftentimes the one time a year where we get to see each other face to face. So we all missed out on that, and I'm really hopeful that this is the last year where that'll be the case. And to everyone here too, thanks for joining. It really was terrible that we didn't get to see you guys this year at Camden Yards. But despite all of the obstacles we faced this year, the shortened draft, the lack of the minor league season, the shortened major league season, the delay of the international signing period, we made a lot of organizational progress, and are very excited about the way that the organization is growing, the level of talent that's growing across the organization as we carry forward in 2021.
Mike, let's get started with the actual additions that were made yesterday by the club through the Rule 5 draft. What do you like about the guys the team added yesterday?
Yeah, well, the Rule 5 draft is it's a weird thing because the players, you have to try to keep them on the team the entire year. So you're not just looking for your favorite prospects from other teams that were unprotected. You're trying to look at the opportunity that might exist on your own team so that these guys might have a chance to stick. And for us, we felt that that avenue existed possibly in a long relief, long man role, or a fifth starter, spot starter role. That's going to be an area of need for us. There'll be some innings available there. And it just so happened that, there were a number of prospects available in this Rule 5 draft that kind of fit the bill for that. So our first pick was Max Soroller, that just happened to be Ben McDonald's nephew, and helped me get some info on him and what he's been up to during the outage, which is not easy to do on some of these players. He's a guy that in 2019 was in the Florida State League, was arguably the best pitcher in the league, led the league in strikeouts, probably could have gone to Double-A or beyond with the Reds. For whatever reason, didn't get that opportunity. And then the shutdown occurred. He didn't get to pitch in 2020. But he's got 4 real major league quality pitches. He's had success in high A, comes from a baseball family, real good delivery. We think he's a starting pitcher prospect. So obviously this will be a big jump and a challenge for him trying to stick in the major leagues, but that's what the Rule 5 draft's all about. And then likewise in the second round, we took a similar profile guy, and Tyler Wells was very dominant in the Twins organization through 2018, through Double-A, had Tommy John surgery. And because of that, plus the shutdown, he just hasn't pitched professionally since then. So there's weird circumstances this year. I think everyone's kind of embracing them and taking some chances in the Rule 5 draft, and that's what we'll do. So we'll see these guys in Sarasota, and they're going to have a shot to make the team.
So, Mike, it feels like maybe a long time ago, especially with this year, but this is really only the 2-year anniversary since you were hired to lead the baseball operations with the Orioles. Organizationally, up and down as far as talent goes, is this ahead of where you thought you would be, considering all that's been acquired even with yesterday and through recent trades, and then, of course, the trades this past season?
Well, I think that there's some areas where we're well ahead, and it, when I came in November 2018, our farm system was not regarded well nationally or publicly, but I knew there was some really interesting pitchers there, and I think that we were able to install our pitching program in the minor leagues very, very quickly, and we had a lot of blossoming of talent in the minors because of that. We had a great minor league season all around in 2019. and the farm system kind of shot up as a result. So that happened a lot faster than I think we might have expected, just because the players that were already here took well to the coaching methods. Everyone had a great season. Everyone improved. On the flip side, the global pandemic and the cancellation of the signing period and only having a 5-round draft hurt us a little bit, and we didn't have a minor league season. So there's some areas where, I feel like we maybe lost ground, but it happened to the whole industry. But at the end of the day, we're sitting here with a very talented group of major league players on our team, young guys. The Ryan Mountcastles, the Dean Kramers, Keegan Aiken. We're going to see Yasniel Diaz here pretty soon. The group that's on our 40-man roster is very young and very talented. And we're sitting here with a top 5, top 10 farm system in baseball, and that's happened very, very quickly thanks to a lot of moves that we made and a lot of good coaching. So I feel really good about where we're at, especially when you consider the hurdles we face this year.
When you see a Ryan Mountcastle, a Dean Kramer, a Keegan Aiken come up, get the call, and then have instant success, does that validate the process and the development that you've installed in the minor league level?
Well, it's really rare, actually. I mean, usually you expect even the best prospects in the game fall on their face usually when they make it to the major leagues. You look at Mike Trout's debut. He was bad his first year, and that's typical. So when these guys do that, it's nice. I mean, it's a testament to the preparation and work that they've put in. It's a testament to the environment that was created. And in the case of this year at our alternate site in Bowie, and just the culture in the clubhouse that these players come in and they feel like they belong. So I don't expect that with every guy, and we shouldn't expect that for all of our prospects as they come up. But it's really nice to see, and for those 3 guys in particular, it was really impressive.
The club is still, Mike, in adding talent mode, but I think this group listening right now and watching this, they are very engaged in the minor leagues and who's coming up, and especially those maybe highly touted top 10 prospect list types, and maybe even beyond that. Most people are going to look at it and say, all right, you have this many outfielders already in Baltimore, and then there's this many knocking on the door at different levels of the farm system. Maybe the same can be said. I think most top 30 rankings for the Orioles might have 15 starting pitchers. Well, some won't make it, some will get hurt, maybe some become relievers. But in your mind, do you have it kind of charted out a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Yeah, I think what you brought up there, I mean, these guys are going to get hurt. They're going to fail. We're not going to be perfect in our decision-making. And that's why a starting point for a successful rebuild like this is to overwhelmingly fill the farm system with talent. And we're going to have a baseline of talent that will sustain competitive baseball here for many, many years. And it's not viable to just go out and sign a bunch of free agents. And we're going to need a supplement of talent coming internally that we just haven't had here. So our focus is there. We're starting there. It takes a few years to do. It's like I said a couple of weeks ago when we traded Jose Iglesias, who was a really nice addition to our team last year and a good signing and helped our team take a little bit of a step forward in 2020. We're keeping our eye on that strategy. And when we can get prospects back for a veteran player, we're looking at that right now. So eventually we will not have to prioritize the young talent pipeline, but we're still in that phase. And I think we're making terrific progress and, nearing a part of that transition that'll be really exciting.
Mike, for you personally, pandemic aside, what's been the biggest surprise or challenge for running a baseball team on the field?
None of it's been surprising just because I've talked to so many people that have taken this job. But really, I think the most challenging thing is managing your time. We're running a baseball team day to day, but there are also 5 or 6 different departments across baseball operations: the draft, international, player development, the analytics department, the pro scouting department. And all of the logistical and administrative decisions that go into it, that there's a lot of demands in your time. There are a lot of public events. It's tough. So you've really got to be careful with that. And it can be tough to keep up with your correspondence. But I knew that coming into it, but it remains a daunting part of the job.
And for you personally, Mike, you and your family have now been here for a couple of years. You're no stranger to the Mid-Atlantic region, obviously. But pandemic aside, how do you guys like Baltimore, and what are some of your favorite things to do?
It's fun living here. I've always loved Baltimore. I'm from Northern Virginia. Came up here a lot in the 90s. My sister lived here for a number of years in Roland Park. So I was very familiar with the city already and always had some fondness for it. But we're having a great time living here. It's got a small town feel. People that you meet, you see them everywhere. Obviously, it's been a little strange this year with everything that we're all going through. Haven't gotten out as much as we would have liked, and enjoyed all our favorite restaurants that we found in 2019. So looking forward to getting back to normal.
Yes, and we do have the best ballpark in the country. I do know that. All right, let's get to some of our Birdland member questions. Question number one from Ann Wismer from Parkton, Maryland. Did you ever think that one day you would be a general manager of a major league club?
No, I really didn't. I went into scouting at a young age after I finished playing in college, and I wanted to be a scout and a scouting director, and I did that, and that was really the extent of my goals. But eventually got into player development and international scouting, and eventually all the experience across those three areas made me a candidate for this and other positions. But I think this job in particular, with the rebuild and the need to improve our methods in those areas, it's been a great fit, and I'm really happy to be here.
Question here from Larry Hornstein of Frederick, Maryland. How is Trey Mancini progressing with his recovery from colon cancer?
Amazingly well. I mean, I'm fingers crossed, of course, but it's gone as well as we could have hoped when we got that terrible news in March. He is hitting, he's running, he's going to be a full member of spring training. I think he's going to do great.
This question from Scott Sanders of Joppa, Maryland. When evaluating a prospect, what is something you consider to be noteworthy that people might overlook, others in the industry might overlook?
Well, the hardest thing to get right is the player's makeup, which is our scouting term for kind of what goes on between his ears. Nobody's got a perfect science for that, but it's the most important thing and the easiest thing to mess up. One thing that we pay a lot of attention to when we're looking at minor league prospects is their age and what level they're playing at and how they're doing relative to peers that are at the same age level. And so we have ways of factoring that in when we do our statistical projections and our statistical analysis, and it's very important.
This question from Melanie Harlow of Jessup, Maryland. Will the Orioles continue to be active in the international market, and any interest in players from Japan or Korea?
I think that we're going to have the best international signing period that this organization's ever had. It was supposed to be on July 2nd. The commissioner's office delayed it, and the plan is for it to occur on January 15th. So we'll see. Hopefully that goes off without a hitch, and we're able to execute those signings in January, because we're very excited about this class in particular, especially considering where we started from, which was kind of behind the eight ball. And working from behind relative to the rest of the league. And we keep our eyes on international activity. The Orioles have made some pretty good signings out of Asia the last 10 years, and we don't want to lose sight of that.
Mike, could you get into how, from really the ground up, you got everything going, especially in Latin countries over the last few years, and who you've put in place to make that happen?
Yeah, we really weren't participating in the Dominican and Venezuelan player markets like you've got to be now, and it's really like a third of the league that comes from those countries, and the proportion of stars that come from those countries is even higher than that. So you've got to do it. It's really about having experienced people and trusted people in place in those countries. And I had just come out of being an international scouting director, so that was helpful. But we hired Kobe Perez from the Indians. He's brought in a staff of guys from a bunch of different organizations, the Mets, the Phillies, and we've got a legit scouting operation there now. We're also making some serious strides in improving our player development capabilities in Latin America, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue revealing some of our work in that space here in the next year or so.
This question from Steven Cheskin of Silver Spring, Maryland. What do you think of the rule changes this past year in baseball, and would you like to see any of them continue?
Yeah, so it's a good year for experimentation just because of how crazy the season was. But there were three rules that I personally would like to see in the regular season. One is the DH. I think that's good. The extra inning rule where we put the runner at second base. It's not something I want to see in the playoffs, but I think it's really nice in the regular season. It's brutal when you're playing a game in June or July. You go 17 innings. You've blown out your whole pitching staff, and then you've got a game the next day across country. You end up having to cut players and send guys down, and it's not right. And then lastly, the 7-inning doubleheaders I thought were nice. So I'd like to see one or all of those continue in some form or fashion in the regular season, even when we're back to normal.
This question from Mark Winter of Owings Mills. How much did having no minor league season in 2020 affect the Orioles' development plans?
Well, it was bad for everyone equally, so that was good. But we had a amazing amount of success at our alternate site. I think we were able to bring a lot of our prospects there. So guys like Gunnar Henderson, young guys like that got to join, and we had all of our upper-level pitchers there, DL Hall and Grayson Rodriguez. So they got some work in. It wasn't as much as you would get in a normal minor league season, and nowhere near that level of experience. And then we also had a really good instructional league in Sarasota, Florida in October. So we did the best that we could, but it stinks for all these players and for the whole industry that we didn't get to play minor league baseball this year.
Mike, for you right now in your head, and obviously this is something you're going to divulge, but as far as the Grayson Rodriguez of the world and DL Hall, do you have an idea of what level they could start at in 21? And how much do you now, if you knew that, let's just say Hall was going to Double-A Bowie, do you feel he still needs that time in just those two examples, but it could go to any other member of the prospect list?
Yeah, it's very case by case, I think, how we're going to approach it in terms of who needs to skip a level and who needs to go to the level that they were going to go at to start 2020. And like for DL Hall's case, we actually would have put him in Double-A at the end of 2019, but for a minor lat strain that he suffered the last 2 weeks of the season, we were going to send him up to make a couple of starts, and then he was going to start in Double-A in 2020. That got canceled. But he's a guy that hasn't pitched in Double-A yet. Skipping Double-A is unheard of. And, he's still a young guy and he's still polishing up his command. So I think it's very likely that he starts in Double-A. Now, if he does well, we'll probably move him a lot quicker to Triple-A than we would have in 2020. So it's just going to be case by case. And other guys, I think we're going to, skip him up higher than where we would start him in 2020. I think right now with Rutschman, we're looking at probably starting him in Double-A, even though he hasn't really played A-ball. So it just depends on the guy and his age and where his pedigree and the type of experience and the quality of experience that he got in this year, either at the alternate site or in Sarasota.
You did mention Gunnar Henderson. This question from Jason Taylor of Bel Air. Do you envision Gunnar Henderson sticking at shortstop, or do you think his bat will continue to progress? And Jason writes, I keep hearing great things about this young man.
Yeah, I mean, it's really early, but we're feeling really great about him and the draft pick so far. He's so young. He was 17 when we drafted him, so he's 19 now. This is somebody that would have been a freshman in college, and he hit well at the alternate site against all of our older pitchers. So that was really good to see. He's a really big physical kid. He is really athletic, and he's an above-average runner, so I can't rule him out staying at shortstop, but it's something that only time will tell. I mean, he's still growing, and he's so large, and, guys change so much from physically from age 19 to age 22, 23, that it's outside of my control to predict. But he's got the skills to stay at shortstop, and I think if he's still able to maintain this level of agility and quickness, he'll stay there. But if he gets too big, he's going to be a very good defender at third base.
And by the way, you spent a lot of picks in this last abbreviated draft getting after left side infielders like Kobe Mayo and Jordan Westberg, and they joined the likes of an Adam Hall already in the organization. So there's a lot of guys coming along in the lower levels of the minor leagues at infield for the Orioles.
Yeah, we prioritized that. When I got here 2 years ago, we had good depth in the outfield and in starting pitching in the minor leagues, but infield was an obvious area of lacking. That and catcher were probably our two weakest demographics in the minor leagues. So we've really flooded the system with infielders via the draft and trades the last 2 years, and I'm really glad that we did it because it's now looking like a strength. These guys are, they're still in the low minors, and the cancellation of the season didn't help. So, still some time before we start to see some of these guys graduating to the big league team. But Henderson and Westberg are at the top of the list. Taron Vavra is a nice player. I could go on and on. We got a lot of guys, and again, we like that. We like competition. We like depth because the stuff's unpredictable.
Robert Holt of Eldersburg, what do you value most in pitching prospects?
Oh boy, pitching's complicated. You got to stay healthy. You got to throw strikes. You have to have good stuff. So it's hard to prioritize any one thing. I mean, ultimately you're looking for all those things. In order to start in the big leagues nowadays, you need at least 3 and usually 4 pitches, including a changeup. And you have to have stuff that works almost equally well to both handed hitters. And then you have to throw strikes, and all those things are not easy to find. We do our best to develop them, but we're all out here looking for starting pitching, which is part of why we reach out and grab a couple of guys with the profile that we saw in the Rule 5 draft.
As far as pitching goes, good time for me to ask you, could you scout yourself as a pitcher at Yale and some of the stuff you had?
Probably rather skip to another question, but I was a kind of a soft tossing left-handed pitcher, but needing to know how to pitch and how to get guys out and having to be crafty, I think really helps you develop an eye and a mind for the game. So it was helpful in that regard.
This question from Michael Flatege of Raleigh, North Carolina. Which of the young pitchers will receive strong consideration for making the 2021 team on the Major League roster?
So I think that Keegan Aiken and Dean Kramer, with what they did last summer, have put themselves in really good position to be on the inside track for the rotation. Bruce Zimmerman, who made a spot start and debuted last year, is going to be on the radar screen. But we've also got several guys that are either on the 40-man or soon to be on the 40-man at the upper levels of the minor leagues who could vie for rotation spots at some point next year. And that's Michael Baumann, Zach Lowther, Alex Wells. I think that we're going to see Kevin Smith pretty soon. He was one of the guys we got from the Mets in the Miguel Castro trade. And then, there's even more than that I could name. But I think that those 3 in particular who were just added to the 40-man in addition to Bruce Zimmerman are going to be given a good opportunity here in the next year.
This question from Chris Clements of Boonesboro, Maryland. When do you think we'll see Adley Rutschman at Camden Yards?
It's a really tough one to answer now just because of the minor league season cancellation. And I was fully expecting at this point in time, we'd be talking about how well he hit in Double-A, but he just didn't get to play any minor league baseball this year. He did face a lot of upper level pitching at the alternate site, which was great. And like I said, I think that'll enable us to start him in Double-A if that's what we want to do. But until, he logs a lot of minor league at bats, it's really hard to script out a guy's debut, no matter how talented he is.
For a guy like Adley, Mike, who's number 1 overall, obviously has come with just a ton of hype. I mean, we all saw videos of his first Gulf Coast League at bat. And do you ever worry about, for Adley, and I know you've spent your professional life analyzing young players and what's between the ears, but do you ever worry about the pressure of being that guy for a guy like Adley Rutschman?
Yeah, it was a big part of our process in 2019, and I talked to him about it extensively, and we talked to him about it, and especially not just being the number 1 pick, but sort of, a very rebuild-oriented organization. and he was going to be the focal point of that. And there's a lot of pressure involved. But he spoke about the pressure that he faced in the College World Series, and then being the sort of anointed number one pick all year and having to go out that spring and perform in front of all the scouts. It was very similar. And, anyone who knows him praises him for his mental makeup. And, it's hard for everyone. And I'm sure he'll have his ups and downs, but it won't be because of what's between the ears.
And for you, Mike, as you analyze any player in this analytics age, people, I think, assume that makeup is not something that you consider anymore, but it's obviously still a big part of the overall equation.
It's a huge consideration, and some of my biggest mistakes in my career have been related to that topic. And there's no science to assessing it, but everyone in baseball will tell you how important it is and what a separator is. And I think every organization is trying to get smart in that area, but it's a very soft science.
This question from Danny Duhan of Owings Mills, Maryland. What are some of the lessons from 2020 that the Orioles can use going forward?
We certainly learned a lot about health and safety protocols, and I'm hopeful that those won't be necessary too far into 2021. I think things are looking really good on that front. But I think that our team did a great job last year sticking together, understanding that it was going to be a difficult season, that they were going to have to make a lot of personal sacrifices to get up every morning and play baseball. And it created a real bond with this group and the coaching staff and Brandon Hyde that I think will carry over into 2021. I think that the culture that we established in the clubhouse last year that was made even stronger just because of how much work it was just to go into the clubhouse every day and follow the rules. It was a really good maturation process for our young players.
And finally, Mike, just to talk about the 2020 club, some specifics about the team before we turn the page. Clearly, there's some building blocks that are obvious for everyone to see, like Anthony Santander, and this season he had Ryan Mountcastle on his offensive production. Just to kind of look back at where things are and where they will be, just to have a couple of guys that you might be able to pencil in a few years. As a general manager, how good does that make you feel?
The two players that you named, I think we've got high hopes for in the corner outfield spots. Getting Trey Mancini back in the middle of the lineup is going to help them as well. We've got a really interesting competition going on in center field with Austin Hayes and Cedric Mullins. And, we're still waiting for some answers in our infield competition, but there's some guys in the mix there right now that we like. I think both of our young catchers it's a good pairing, and they had interesting seasons last year. But most of all, seeing the young starting pitching come up. I mean, John Means in particular continuing to take a step forward. I think he's a front of the rotation guy. And then having the debuts that we got from Kramer and Aiken and some more on the way is really important. So we're always trying to identify pieces that will be a part of a playoff team. We've got a ways to go to get all 9 positions and all 5 rotation spots in the bullpen to that point. But we're certainly plugging along, and the guys that established themselves in the last year or two are of great importance to us.
Well, thank you all for being a part of our conversation with Orioles Executive Vice President and General Manager Mike Elias. Mike, thank you so much. And I want to wish everyone again a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season. And we hope so much to see you in 2021. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Hope to see you in person here soon. Happy holidays.